There are stories from space that leave us amazed, stories that expand the limits of what we think is possible. But every so often a story comes along that doesn't just fascinate, it baffles. One such story is unfolding on Mars, where one of NASA's most extraordinary creations, the Ingenuity helicopter, has gone missing. That's right. This tiny but revolutionary flyer, the first aircraft to ever make a powered flight on another world, has simply vanished. No crash site. No signal. Just silence. And the more scientists search for answers, the more puzzling the situation becomes. What happened to Ingenuity? Where did it go? And why is this disappearance sparking debates across the scientific community? To understand the gravity of what's going on, we first need to appreciate just how special Ingenuity really was. When it was first launched alongside the Perseverance rover back in 2021, Ingenuity wasn't even part of the main mission. It was what NASA called a technology demonstration, basically a side project. A proof of concept. The goal was simple: see if it was possible to fly a helicopter on Mars. And if it worked, great. If it didn't, no big deal. But what happened next shocked everyone. Not only did Ingenuity fly, it soared. It completed flight after flight in an atmosphere just 1% as dense as Earth's, navigating through dust, extreme cold, and unpredictable wind patterns. It performed so well that NASA extended its mission again and again, eventually completing over 70 successful flights. This tiny helicopter became a symbol of ingenuity, living up to its name, and hope. It wasn't just a success, it was an inspiration, a glimpse into a future where flying drones could explore Mars from above, scouting terrain, helping rovers, and maybe one day even assisting human missions. So when news began to break in 2023 that Ingenuity had stopped responding during what was supposed to be a routine flight, the shock hit hard. NASA's teams were suddenly faced with an unsettling mystery. The helicopter had gone up like it had dozens of times before, but it never came back. There was no signal, no telemetry, no crash coordinates. It had simply disappeared from Mars' sky. Immediately, speculation began to swirl. Was this a technical failure? Had some crucial component finally given out after so many harsh Martian days and nights? After all, Ingenuity was built to survive just 5 flights over 30 days. It had defied expectations for over 2 years. Could it have just reached its limit? Some engineers believe that's exactly what happened. The rotor system or internal electronics might have degraded after extended exposure to Mars' freezing nighttime temperatures, which regularly drop below -100 degrees Celsius. Even the most rugged components can't withstand that level of stress forever. But this theory, while plausible, doesn't explain one thing. Why was there no distress signal? Normally, even in the case of a crash, the system is designed to transmit some kind of final telemetry, basic data that tells mission control what went wrong, or at least when contact was lost. But this time there was nothing. The radio link to Perseverance went dark mid-flight, and all the logs ended without any sign of trouble. It was as if Ingenuity had been plucked from the sky. This led some to wonder, could Mars' atmosphere itself have played a role? One of the most widely circulated theories is that a sudden violent dust storm may have swept over the helicopter mid-flight. On Earth, a sandstorm might pelt your car or throw debris around, but on Mars, dust storms can cover the entire planet and last for weeks. These massive storms can obscure the sun, interfere with communications, and even generate static electricity. If Ingenuity got caught in such a storm, it might have been overwhelmed, lost its ability to stabilize, and crashed far from the expected landing zone, too far for Perseverance to pick up a signal. But again, that theory has its issues. Mars satellites that track weather patterns did not report any large-scale dust storms in the area where Ingenuity was flying that day. If there was a storm, it would have had to be hyperlocal, small enough to evade orbital sensors but strong enough to wipe out a flying robot. Possible? Sure. But still strange. Then, as if the situation couldn't get any more curious, another idea began to circulate. What if the helicopter didn't crash at all? What if it landed safely, but in a spot where it simply couldn't be seen or heard? Maybe it's in a deep canyon or behind a rock formation where Perseverance's antennas can't reach it. This theory is especially interesting because it suggests that Ingenuity might still be operational, just lost in a dead zone, waiting for help. That would be both frustrating and incredible. It would mean that a machine millions of kilometers away has outlived every expectation but is stuck with no one to find it. NASA engineers haven't ruled this out. In fact, they've been using Perseverance to scan nearby terrain, hoping to spot a shadow, a glint of metal, anything that might point to Ingenuity's location. They've also tried pinging it using different communication protocols, hoping to shake loose some kind of signal. But so far nothing. Total silence. That leads to another uncomfortable possibility. Something went wrong that we simply didn't prepare for. A glitch in the guidance system, a power failure mid-air, or even a software bug that froze the system entirely. Remember, Ingenuity wasn't built to last this long. Each new flight was like rolling a dice with hardware well past its expected life cycle. One bad line of code, one corrupted signal, and it could all be over. There's also a slightly more exotic theory floating around. One that has sparked debates not just in scientific forums but across the internet. What if something unexpected interfered with the mission? Could solar radiation have scrambled the electronics? Could an underground electromagnetic source have disrupted the flight path? Or, this one's definitely fringe, could it have been intercepted by something unknown? While the idea of alien interference is highly speculative and lacks any hard evidence, it hasn't stopped curious minds from considering it. After all, it's not every day that a functioning aircraft simply disappears from another planet. The idea may be far-fetched, but history has shown that science often begins with questions that sound wild at first. The truth is we don't know. And not knowing is what makes this situation so compelling. One thing is certain. The disappearance of Ingenuity is more than just a technical hiccup. It's a wake-up call. A reminder that even our most advanced machines are vulnerable in space. It forces mission planners to rethink how redundancy is built into future technologies. If we're going to send drones, aircraft, or even humans to Mars one day, we need to understand just how unpredictable the environment can be, and prepare for outcomes we haven't seen before. Ingenuity was a game-changer, no doubt. But now it's also a mystery. And until that mystery is solved, engineers, scientists, and dreamers alike will be left wondering, what really happened up there in the thin Martian air? Whatever the truth is, Ingenuity's legacy is already written in the history books. It did what no machine had done before. It showed us that flight on another planet was possible. And not just once, but over 70 times. That alone would be enough to make it a legend. But now, with this unexpected twist, it has also become something else, an unsolved case. A symbol of both triumph and the unknown. And maybe that's fitting. Because exploration isn't just about answers. It's also about questions. Big, difficult, fascinating questions that force us to look deeper, reach further, and keep pushing the edge of what's possible. Ingenuity didn't just explore Mars. It reminded us why we explore it all. As the search for Ingenuity stretched on in silence, one reality began to settle in for NASA's engineers. This wasn't going to be an easy fix. They had always known that Ingenuity was pushing the edge of what was possible. After all, the helicopter was never meant to survive for years on Mars. It was designed to demonstrate flight in an alien atmosphere, nothing more. But when it proved itself to be far more capable than anyone had expected, NASA had no choice but to keep pushing its limits. That meant more flights, more complex missions, and more opportunities for failure. So when Ingenuity stopped communicating, it was heartbreaking but not entirely surprising. Still, the lack of any concrete evidence left an uncomfortable question hanging in the air. Why now? If it had failed due to wear and tear, that would make sense. But why no crash site? Why no final message or automated distress ping? NASA's data showed everything was functioning normally during the last transmission. Power levels were good, flight systems nominal, environmental factors were stable. Then suddenly nothing. That's not how machines usually fail. Systems typically degrade gradually, not instantaneously. So the mystery deepened. Was there a hidden flaw that NASA missed? Or was this an event no one could have predicted? As mission analysts reviewed every byte of data Ingenuity had ever sent, a few patterns started to emerge, subtle anomalies that hadn't seemed important before. In a handful of previous flights, there were brief moments of signal interference. Just a few milliseconds here and there where the radio link would wobble. At the time, engineers chalked it up to dust or elevation changes. But now, with Ingenuity gone, these tiny glitches suddenly seemed more significant. Could these have been early warning signs? Was there a deeper issue with the communication hardware that finally caused a complete breakdown? One theory points to something called thermal cycling fatigue. Every night on Mars, temperatures plummet. And every day they rise again, sometimes drastically. Over hundreds of cycles, this can cause microfractures in solder joints, circuit boards, and connectors. Over time, those fractures spread. Eventually, something breaks. That kind of failure would explain a sudden shutdown with no warning. If the main circuit or battery control failed mid-flight, Ingenuity might have simply died in the air, falling quietly to the ground with no chance to call home. But here's where things get even more curious. Even if that were true, even if the helicopter lost power mid-flight, its physical location should still be findable. Perseverance, the rover that served as Ingenuity's communication relay, has cameras capable of scanning wide terrain. Satellites orbiting Mars have ultra-high-resolution imaging tools. And yet, in the months since Ingenuity vanished, not a single image has shown a crash site. There are no fresh impact marks, no twisted blades, no debris. For a planet with such a thin atmosphere and little erosion, wreckage should stick out like a sore thumb. But nothing has been found. It's as if Ingenuity didn't crash, it simply disappeared. That mystery has sent NASA's scientists digging even deeper, running simulations to model what would happen if the helicopter had veered off course. How far could it have glided if it lost power? Could it have flown into a crater or canyon beyond camera range? The models suggest a few possibilities. In certain flight paths, a powerless Ingenuity could drift over 100 meters from its planned route. That's not far by Earth standards. But on Mars, it can be the difference between being visible and being hidden forever. If it came down behind a ridge or inside a shadowed ravine, no current sensors would spot it. In fact, it could be lying intact, batteries drained, silently waiting beneath the Martian dust. And that possibility, however remote, is strangely haunting. It means Ingenuity might still be there, like a silent ghost on the red planet, out of sight but not necessarily gone. It also raises questions about how we recover lost equipment on other worlds. With no human presence on Mars, we rely entirely on rovers and satellites to find and fix things. But those tools have limits. If a robot falls outside our line of sight, it might as well be on another planet entirely. The disappearance of Ingenuity has become a powerful lesson in those limits, and a warning for future missions. Yet for some people, the case of the missing helicopter is more than just a technological problem. It taps into something deeper. Something emotional. For the engineers who built Ingenuity, this wasn't just another robot. It was a labor of love, a passion project born from decades of dreaming about flight on Mars. Watching it rise into the sky for the first time was like watching the Wright brothers take off at Kitty Hawk all over again. And now, to lose it without a trace, it stings. There's no closure. No final flight log. No confirmation of what went wrong. Just an empty patch of Martian sky and a signal that never returned. That feeling has inspired NASA to keep trying. Even though official missions have moved on, teams still analyze imagery, scan shadows, and send occasional pings, hoping that one day they'll catch a reply. And if that day comes, it will be a moment of vindication. A sign that maybe we didn't lose Ingenuity after all. Maybe it's just resting, hidden for now, waiting for us to catch up. But for others, this incident raises a very different set of questions. Ones that veer into the strange and the speculative. Could it be that we're not alone on Mars? That something, natural or otherwise, interfered with Ingenuity's flight? This idea, while definitely on the fringe, has gained traction online. After all, strange things have been observed on Mars before. Odd rock formations that resemble structures. Bursts of methane in the atmosphere. Even repeating patterns in crater dust that some claim don't appear naturally. Could Ingenuity have encountered something unexpected? Something not yet understood? NASA has always been careful with these kinds of theories. The agency insists there's no evidence of extraterrestrial life on Mars. And in fairness, there's nothing concrete linking Ingenuity's disappearance to anything unnatural. But space is full of unknowns. And when something this advanced disappears without explanation, people are going to ask questions, especially when those questions push the boundaries of conventional science. Maybe the answer is entirely mundane. A dust storm, a crash, a fried circuit. Or maybe it's something else. Something we haven't yet imagined. In either case, the mission has sparked new debates about how we explore alien worlds. Should future helicopters carry onboard beacons that transmit their location even after a total system failure? Should we build in redundant flight recorders like we do with airplanes? These kinds of discussions are already shaping the next generation of Mars aircraft. Engineers are considering new rotor designs, tougher insulation, and smarter communication systems that don't rely on line of sight with rovers. Ingenuity's loss may end up making future missions stronger. And that's part of its legacy too. Ingenuity wasn't just about flight. It was about learning. Every successful liftoff taught us about aerodynamics in thin air. Every landing helped us understand the terrain. And now, its disappearance is teaching us something just as important. How to plan for the unexpected. How to prepare for the moment when things go wrong and you're 200 million kilometers away from your machine with no way to touch it. That kind of knowledge is priceless. And it's the kind of thing we'll carry with us as we prepare for crewed missions to Mars in the coming decades. Because make no mistake, humans are going to Mars. Maybe not next year. Maybe not even in the next 10. But it's coming. And when it does, we'll be landing in a place shaped by missions like Ingenuity. A place already touched by our machines, explored by our cameras, and tested by our technology. The lessons we learn now will save lives later. And if Ingenuity's disappearance means better systems, stronger protocols, and more resilient machines, that's a trade we have to accept. Still, there's something undeniably poignant about it all. A tiny helicopter, no larger than a drone you'd buy at the mall, became the first of its kind on an alien world. It defied gravity on a planet where flight was never meant to happen. It outlived its mission. It helped a rover navigate alien terrain. And then one day it flew backslash and vanished. No final message. No dramatic explosion. Just silence. In a way, it's the most Martian ending imaginable, mysterious, quiet, and endlessly vast. We may never know what truly happened to Ingenuity. Maybe years from now, another rover will stumble across its remains, faded by dust but still recognizable. Or maybe it will remain hidden, a secret kept by the Red Planet. Either way, its story will continue to inspire. Because in every vanished signal, there's a spark of curiosity. In every lost machine, a reminder of how bold we've become. We send flying robots to other worlds. We dare to ask questions no one has answered before. And even when those questions don't come with clear answers, we keep exploring. So here's to Ingenuity, the little helicopter that made history, challenged physics, and reminded us that exploration isn't always about the destination. Sometimes it's about the mystery, the unanswered call, the quiet space between signals where wonder lives. It flew where nothing had flown before. It pushed the edge of possibility. And then, just as gracefully as it arrived, it disappeared into the Martian sky, leaving behind a story no one will ever forget.